She watched the woman intently while she waited. Had she been deceiving people for such a long time? She struggled to think of a justification for it. Had she been seduced? Was she at risk? She knew as soon as she turned around and noticed the beggar getting inside the vehicle. She was required to pursue this woman and learn her secret. She had no idea that she would uncover such a web of falsehoods as the truth came to light. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Melissa Smith from San Diego, California, was on her usual errand routine when she spotted the panhandler again. On this day in particular, something just felt off. Melissa decided to trust her intuition and investigate a little further. She stood by her car pumping gas when she noticed the beggar and her little boy standing behind the shopping center. But when she saw where they went, she was incredulous. Her first instinct was to whip out her phone. This beggar had to be smart. The center where she reserved her favorite spot was at a shopping plaza called East Lake Village Center. The woman knew that this place would be crawling with people willing to spare some extra cash for a penniless woman with an enormous baby bump. But she had a huge flaw in her plan. She could never have suspected that one woman was onto her scheme. The beggar would stand out in the scorching sun for quite some time, but she wasn't always on her own with her son. Melissa recalls seeing who she assumed was the little boy's dad standing with them on more than one occasion. This pulled more than a couple of heartstrings, and sure enough, passers-by tended to give them more than usual, often dropping dollar bills into their collection cup and handing them hot drinks and sandwiches. But one day, Melissa couldn't contain her curiosity. She had seen the pregnant woman in the same spot for over 2 months. She must be desperate, Melissa thought. Being heavily pregnant and standing in the scorching Californian sun for hours must have been excruciatingly uncomfortable for the poor woman. But then something happened that stirred a deep suspicion in Melissa, and she couldn't let it go. The pregnant woman seemed to have mastered the art of begging. She knew she would be pied by shoppers walking in and out of the shopping center, so she did her best to stir their emotions. Consumers saw a pregnant beggar with a little boy by her side and couldn't help but feel a twinge of guilt. Her cardboard sign that she held above her baby bump said, "Please help." And of course, people who walked by felt terrible for the young woman and took out their wallets. But was it all an act, or was she genuine? Although Melissa lived just a short drive away from the shopping center, she had never been there at this particular time before. She would usually run her errands for an hour at mid-morning, but today she decided to break her routine and stop for a smoothie before closing time. Immediately noticing that the pregnant beggar was conspicuously absent from her usual spot, Melissa couldn't help but worry for the woman. She hoped she was okay. Upon starting her car, she realized that she was running low on gas, so she swung around to the gas station opposite the East Lake Village Center and pulled over to fill her tank. Then something odd caught her eye that would lead to an investigation. As Melissa was pumping gas into her car, she noticed a familiar face. The pregnant beggar was waiting behind the shopping center, holding her sign up in hopes of getting a few more pennies before she went home. But as Melissa continued to watch, she noticed a car heading straight for the pregnant beggar. Was she in trouble? The vehicle stopped right beside the woman, and Melissa's suspicions started to grow. The driver was the woman's partner, but the most surprising detail was what the man was driving. But what was this woman doing sitting in such an expensive car? Melissa jumped into action, but never expected to make headlines. Melissa jumped into her car and followed the couple. As she documented the whole process with her phone, her car rolled up beside the couple who were laughing. Melissa followed the car to another shopping center not far from the first. It seemed like this couple had everything carefully planned out. The vehicle came to a halt, and to Melissa's amazement, the pregnant beggar got out and started to fool everyone again. Now she had caught her, but she couldn't have known that the authorities would soon be involved. As Melissa got closer to the woman and her little boy, she started snapping pictures. But when the pregnant beggar spotted her, she grew vicious. She started yelling and screaming, lifting a huge rock threateningly. Next thing I know, she picked up this big boulder. Melissa said, "I don't know if pregnant people can do that, but it was pretty big over her head and coming at me with this rock." A witness saw everything and decided to call the cops. But when the beggar knew what was happening, she grabbed her little boy and took off. What the woman didn't know was that Melissa wasn't about to let what she had seen go. Melissa decided that she wasn't going to let the woman get away with bamboozling the public so easily. She called a news station and posted everything on social media. She wanted everyone to know how they had been deceived and to warn everyone in the area not to fall for this master beggar's plan. The news station was so intrigued by the story that they decided to run the plates from the car Melissa had taken pictures of. To their surprise, it stated that the car was in a woman's name, and also there was an address that was undisclosed. She had no idea that others had their eyes on this particular panhandler too. Journalists quickly followed the lead, and this began an exciting spiral. The apartment complex where the woman resided was called Encinita Heights Apartments, and residents said rent is $2,500 a month. After a couple of attempts, no one answered the door, but then they received a phone call. The couple living in the apartment had just moved in, while the couple before them had just picked up and left. Smith had documented everything. Social media and the news had become rather interested in the mysterious pregnant beggar and broadcasted the story for everyone to see. "I feel bad. "Don't give these people money. They don't need it. They're driving a Benz," Smith said. But while the investigation was still infuriating people, one call made journalists spring into action. Another witness had spotted the panhandler. Rebecca was doing her grocery shopping and running a few household errands when she thought she recognized the beggar she'd seen on TV at another shopping center. She immediately called the broadcasters to inform them that she knew the infamous panhandler's location. Minutes later, Emily Valdez arrived at the center. When Valdez was told that the beggar was still in the area, she quickly got to her feet and searched the center for the mystery woman. When she found her, she was perplexed. Wasn't this woman supposed to be pregnant? Only 2 days had passed since Melissa Smith had taken the pictures, but this lady in front of her was holding a baby. The camera crew and Valdez approached the woman. "Is this you, begging?" Valdez asked the woman as she held up her phone with the picture of the pregnant beggar. The woman looked at the picture for some time and then said she didn't speak English. Had they just caught her? The woman who was holding the baby was also with a little boy who looked exactly like the one in the picture. And then the father arrived. He dismissed the camera crew and took his family through the parking lot. The camera crew documented them going inside a minivan with dealer plates. But the journalists had another plan up their sleeves. They ran facial recognition on both women, and the results matched them at 80%. But something made Valdez think that there was more to the whole situation. The man had first spoken in Spanish, but then briefly said something to the panhandler in a second language. Little did he know that this detail was about to blow the whole case wide open. Valdez replayed the recording and listened carefully when she heard the language. Then she got on the phone to call in the experts. Leslie Albright carefully watched the video that had been taken by Valdez and her camera crew. She had retired recently from her post as a detective at the San Diego Police Department, where she had served as a specialist in underground crime rings for 25 years. But there was something about this case that had her nodding her head, and it suddenly hit her that this was no ordinary panhandler. The woman whose actions had infuriated millions on social media was about to have her scam exposed. But there was more to the story. There was a growing issue in the community. Beneath California's modern exterior, a darker reality was unfolding. One Redditor took it upon himself to expose the truth, risking his safety in the process. Leslie, experienced with crime, recognized the language spoken by the man in the viral footage. Their behavior matched patterns she had seen before. Something wasn't right. According to Albright, the couple was linked to an organized crime ring in California. They had entered the country illegally, committing daily scams. Living in expensive apartments and driving multiple cars, they staged sympathy-based cons. The supposed pregnancy was likely a ploy, and the two weren't even a real couple. But this was just one layer of a wider operation. This group rarely stayed in one location, making it difficult for authorities to catch them. Once alerted to suspicion, they would relocate swiftly. That's exactly what this pair did until one man exposed them. After the story aired, a Redditor came forward claiming inside knowledge. He stated the woman was part of a family deeply rooted in criminal activity, having been forced into the ring from a young age. Fearing retaliation, he deleted his account soon after. The woman often used a foam prop to fake pregnancy and earned over $500 daily. She wasn't alone. Many other women operated similarly. These women sat at the bottom of a rigid criminal hierarchy. Women with no means of survival were recruited and promised food and shelter. In reality, they were exploited, dispatched daily to various locations to collect money, funding the lavish lifestyles of their handlers. Children were also used in the scams to garner more sympathy. These kids didn't attend school. Their job was to beg. As Albright noted, they were raised into the family business. Growing up in a cycle of deception and exploitation, after Melissa's story went viral, the network spread to places like Seattle. Even during the 2020 lockdown, their activities persisted. Once media exposed them, they disappeared for months, only to resurface again. The Crow News team followed 4 women and a child, filming them counting cash after a day of panhandling. They spoke in Romanian and Romani, referencing how much they had made. The child played on an iPhone while they traveled to a high-end apartment complex. The anonymous Redditor stressed that many services exist for women and children in need. But the ring bypassed these, scamming the public while also claiming government aid. After sharing this, he began receiving threatening calls and went silent, but not before leaving one final warning. He warned the public that the scammers may reappear, possibly using others in their place. He urged people not to give money and to report them to authorities as the BMW scammers to trigger investigation and deportation protocols. Investigators are still trying to find the head of operations, and people have become more careful of the people they give their money to since the story of the pregnant panhandler went viral. Who knows what other crimes are tied to this Californian crime ring? In order to protect the privacy of those depicted, some names, locations, and identifying characteristics have been changed and are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblances to actual events or places or persons, living or dead, are entirely coincidental.